privacy is important, or maybe isn't. Maybe you have a counter view. We'll just start from you, Alex, and then pass left.
Well, to me, it's very clear, and as I said earlier today, you don't want to live in a glass house, so it just says it all. It's not about hiding, it's just not about not living in a glass house with cameras broadcasting what you do to the world 24/7. That's why privacy is important. That's why we don't live in glass houses and don't install cameras that broadcast everything to everyone all the time.
Thanks. And Pete, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about your project a little bit and then answer the question?
Sure. I'm Pete from obi.money. It's an all-chain unified smart account thing. You just click and you have an account on all chains. And we actually are powered by Secret for some of the technology there. I think we just signed a thing. Yeah, all right. Is that public knowledge yet?
Well, the partnership is,
Right. All right. And we're very happy to work with Secret. And I think privacy, obviously the same things Alex said, but we're all here looking around wondering about mass adoption, right? Government adoption, corporation adoption, institutional adoption. These are things that can't happen without privacy in some cases. Institutions, financial institutions, governments, health institutions, whatever kind of institutions you want to name, they all have regulations for data and data management, all the way up to the government level. We're in Europe, GDPR. There are things you can't do, and you can't put all of a user's data on chain and operate legally as a business. So I think for mass adoption, for user adoption, for user acquisition in general, and for the compliance of businesses that want to work in the space, privacy has got to be a part of their solution.
Yeah, Web2 kind of failed on that, didn't it? Peter,
Cool, yeah. Hi.
feel free to introduce yourself too and your project.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Piotr. I'm from Alex Zero. So as well, privacy solution infrastructure project. I'm leading our investments and BD efforts. And yeah, when it comes to the question, I think Pete said almost all. But to add on top of that, let's just look at the Web2, where a lot of great ventures also took privacy as one of the main USPs. When you open WhatsApp, you see, hey, your messages are encrypted, while Signal or some other apps took it to even another level. When it comes to Apple, you get passkeys and they check if apps are tracking on you, etc. So it's clearly visible that privacy is a very important part of our daily life.
Yeah, hi everyone, Matej here. So I'm with the Oasis team. I'm the team manager here, and yeah, for us, our solution is basically confidential EVM, and I think we're all in agreement here. Privacy is important, but I think it's only coming to fruition now as beginnings of crypto. Were all about where you had all the obfuscations, all the smoke and mirror of the traditional space, and they wanted transparency. And I guess at the beginning, the anonymity was enough, right? But now we see, that with all the side channels that leak your information, right? That's not enough, right? And we actually need on-chain privacy, either for Web2 adoption or just for, crypto natives that want to, do their stuff in private. I think it's really one of the basics. But the problem is always the trade-off between convenience, and security, right? And I think people were getting a little bit lazier and lazier because you can be in that Apple bubble or Google bubble, right? And everything just works seamlessly. And then in crypto, if you want to do something privately, right, you need to jump through a few hoops, right? And until we make it very convenient for users to actually use private solutions, right? Yeah, we won't see that, right? I think there was a research where 9 out of 10 people agree that online privacy is important, right? And that includes crypto as well. But how many of those 9 out of 10 actually do something about it? Maybe use, Proton Mail or use Signal or whatever, right? Probably, maybe 10% of those, right? So here we focus mostly on trying to, appeal to the developers to incorporate the privacy solutions in a way that the UX basically stays the same for the user, similar how HTTPS did it for our normal operations. So basically, they don't even know that it is there, but at the same time, you enable it for them.
Yeah, you answered actually perfect lead into the next question, which was, in the Web 2 world or in the normal world, we take privacy for granted. Why is it different in blockchain? Why is privacy any different in blockchain from any other industry, and why do we have to pay attention to it?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Yeah, basically, I think it's basically on the service, right, that you're using, and I think in the Web2 space we take privacy for granted, but only privacy from your neighbor or from anybody else, right? But at the same time, you're very open to giving your data to any institution, right? Because there are back deals with with all the big players, how they're serving your data to somebody else so they can analyze you, right? So even in the traditional space, you're not getting that true privacy from everyone, right? But only from the guy sitting next to you, maybe, right? So I think here it's all about bringing that trust, that privacy back to the user, and making it seamless. That's my answer here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree on that, and I would add that I split this topic into 3 categories, and at the moment in crypto we have pseudo-anonymity, where actually when somebody already knows these others belong to us, it's super easy to track everything, the whole history, and etc. And what you said, that in Web 2 also we feel some kind of privacy, but it's not full, and maybe we are anonymous to our neighbors, to other users of Facebook or whatever, but we are known to the protocol who is serving some services to us. And with crypto, we can go a step further and actually have the privacy when we don't know what actually happened, and all of the computation is also shielded, and that gives us a lot of new opportunities, also in some established areas like finance, etc., but as well opens a lot of new doors.
Yeah, thanks.
The question, why is privacy not really? It's not what we're talking about at most of the events this week, right? A lot of communities in Ethereum haven't even thought about adding privacy to their products yet. And part of that is because the very inception of this whole thing, of blockchain, of crypto, of decentralized, distributed networks, it was fighting corruption by transparency. So early on, transparency was the thing. How do you prove the government isn't, acting badly, or the person who's sending you money isn't acting badly? It's by this radical transparency, and that's very valuable in a lot of contexts. And that's why it's a good model that I like that Secret has, where you can have transparency. There's an ability to be transparent about your accounts. You're a non-profit, or you're a government agency, or you're a corporation, or your own personal account in certain contexts can say to the world, look, you can view this. You can view a provable record of what I've done. But if you take the idea that we should always have transparency for everything, and you take it out to its extremes, it creates a very dystopian universe. We need privacy. At least we need the possibility to choose privacy for certain areas of our lives. You don't want health information, inheritance information. You don't want your daily route as you conduct commerce throughout the day to be on a public ledger that everyone can access and use to mount some kind of attack. So I think that it's something that's been ignored so far in a lot of circles.
So
but
why? Why do you think it's being ignored by builders in the Ethereum ecosystem?
I think they're just occupied with a bunch of other things right now. I think if they were on this panel, they would say yes, privacy is important, but we haven't had time to get around to it yet. But the people that are here have had time to get around to it, and now have solutions that people can really use in Ethereum and beyond to bring privacy to their users and their applications.
Right, and one reason I think might be that it's so complicated. Encryption is very complicated, not everybody can do it. So how do we make that available to everybody?
Yeah, I think one other reason was that the actual real demand for privacy was not really there. I think even today, even at this conference, a lot of people participating might think that what they do on chain is invisible. And I heard that from people in the industry, or maybe not developers, but people who are trading say, oh yeah, nobody would know. And it's like exactly the opposite. So that's one reason that there is not enough education, and there was not enough mass usage of the products that actually led to problems because of privacy leaks. There were some, but there will be more and more. And I think that's why now is the time for Ethereum builders or any other builders out there to think about this, because again, if they want to serve hundreds of millions, they need privacy. So far, we didn't have hundreds of millions yet. So people didn't realize the issues. Although some of the institutional traders did, right? Some people use obfuscation of different kinds, and I'm talking about institutional traders, right? So they understand that they want to be private, but it's still the beginning. And it's great for us, actually, that we're here with all those technologies ready for people to use.
Pete, you said something that I just want to drill down on a little bit. You said that blockchain was created with this idea of radical transparency and fighting corruption. What about the idea that blockchain, on page, was it 32 of Satoshi's white paper, there is a mention that this is all non-public. Like anything you do on Bitcoin will be private because nobody knows your address. Like it's just an address, it's not your name.
It's, sorry, I'll jump in. It's chapter 10 of the white paper, the blockchain white paper. It's called privacy. And yeah, it says the addresses will be unknown and anonymous. And it, maybe back then, I think even back then it seemed kind of very naive, right? Because, come on, once I send some money to somebody, I know their address, right? And even if they derive a new one, I can see the connections, and that's what's happening. But still somehow it persisted, because this cryptic address to a regular person, it seems so far from my first and last name that it seems like almost like a gap that cannot be crossed, but it in reality can, like, super easily, and becomes easier every day.
Yeah, the Satoshi white paper, I'm going to be sacrilegious here, right? It has problems because it was just so early, basically a hobby project. It's a seminal document, right? It's an important document, but Satoshi didn't have any idea of how big this was going to be. It was a bunch of hobbyists getting around together, and it probably seemed sufficient to mask my name behind an address. I didn't think that really powerful entities would be going after accounts worth millions, multi-millions of dollars, able to get ISP records and connect the dots with my transaction patterns and so on, and now bring in AI and analyze and figure out who people are, even if they haven't revealed. So it's not that the white paper's radical transparency was the idea that everyone should have their name out there associated with their money. But you could look at an account, right, and say this account's being honest, or see what it's doing and so on. I think that's it. It's there is clearly the idea of pseudonymity there, and I think that in today's environment there would be some more provisions and more considerations in that paper than there were back in 2008.
Do either of you want to jump in on that question?
Yeah, I think pretty a lot been said on that, but coming back to the question why ETH community haven't really went that deep into the private sector, I think that the main problem is that ETH still got problems with scaling, right? So when the best brains in the ecosystem are primarily focused on that, and still we of course have some solutions like through education, etc., but they came with a lot of other problems. The main would be the UX, which is pretty terrible, and it takes a lot of time. To make it efficient, you should wait a few days actually to make a transaction, etc., etc. The other one is extremely expensive as well, right? Which, if you can code those privacy solutions on your own, in your environment, you can do it much cheaper, and that's why probably the privacy solutions first appeared outside of the core ETH community. And then the third one, when it comes to Tornado Cash, which used to be the biggest one around the topic for ETH, is the compliance issues. And we know that Lazarus Group is using that, right, for laundering money. And then if you interacted with now, often gonna ban your address. It's super easy, as we talked, to track it. And then actually you won't be able to use those funds anymore in future. You just lost your money. So there's a lot of problems to be solved, and just being in the core of ETH, you have too many other problems to be focused on that, I believe, and that's why it happened. And when it comes to the Bitcoin question, I think, yeah, that's nothing to add here.
Yeah, I would just add, so as I think you said, right, everybody's focusing on their own thing. So until we make it private, privacy so simple to integrate, right, either through adjacent protocols or anything like that, they're just gonna stick to their thing, right? Because the demand is unfortunately not there yet, right? From the masses, right? I think if you have Uniswap, right, and then if you have a tick box there that says make my swaps private, people will click that, right? Instantly, because why not, right? But if they need, to transfer funds to, some other chain, do the swap there, or even if they get the same liquidity, everything, those are the steps that they won't take, and they'll be like, okay, screw it, I don't care if anybody sees my swaps, I'm just going to do it here because it's easier, right? So I think it's mostly simplified to an extent that the developers, it's basically an afterthought to add those privacy features, and then it's a no-brainer to add it, right, to any DEX, to any lending protocol, untouchable. There are use cases so broad, and I'm in BD, so I see a lot of that, right? When I'm speaking to teams, it's all about the team bandwidth, how much you're able to dedicate their resources to. And just one more thing on the radical transparency topic, right? I think back then it was all about transparency and clearing up that obfuscation that the governments had and all that. But now I think the cryptography and all that came to such a far point that where we can have privacy and at the same time verifiability, right? So you're not losing on the trust or the trustlessness, right, with adding privacy, right? So you can have the cake and eat it too, and that's the beauty of it, I think. So for me, even with the Satoshi white paper, I think developing back then, it was a very far-sighted document, and then Hal Feeney and his comments, his posts on Twitter were also, how he was able to envision 10 years forward, what will happen to Bitcoin to an extent, but obviously you're developing in a bubble, in a little bit of a vacuum, so you can't foresee and imagine how the real world takes this protocol when it gains so much attention as it has now, right? So I think it should be an evolving solution, but I think the core pillars that were set with the white paper and the origins of Bitcoin are here to stay.
Thank you. And once again, you kind of anticipated the next question. So let's do popcorn. 30 seconds each on what we think whether Web3 privacy will help or hinder, will it help blockchain adoption in the future? What's in store? 30 seconds, go. You have the microphone.
Yeah, so I think for sure it's gonna help, but we need to think of better UX to stop fragmenting the liquidity and the whole experience, so what you just said, and start thinking of the compliance as well, because regulators in the end for sure gonna crack down on us, so we need to think how we want to approach AML and KYC.
I think it's essential for adoption. First of all, what we want to do at Obi for user experience requires it. It's not because we want people to hide their money and hide their transactions necessarily. It's just like our user experience improvements require encryption technology. So if you think through some of the use cases it enables a whole broad spectrum of use cases beyond just sending money and nobody can see. And also, in order for governments or institutions or wealth managers or whatever to adopt it, there has to be privacy, at least for a great majority of them. They're not going to want to have all their financial transactions or whatever out in the open. So I think that adoption definitely requires that privacy be an integrated component of the stack, whatever chain you're on.
Alex, 30 seconds on blockchain adoption.
Yeah, so my first project in crypto was a layer 1 privacy chain called Beam, and it didn't succeed that much because it was an isolated ecosystem which required people to move over, and although the technology wasn't as awesome and beautiful and everything, people were just not investing their effort in that. So I think privacy must be available everywhere in Web3 for adoption, and must have great user experience. Without this, without those things, there's no chance Web3 will actually overcome Web2 ever. So, and that's why it's great we're working on those directions. And I love, by the way, what Obi is doing, which is kind of combining both, right? User experience is not less important, maybe even more important, but they're all necessary. And privacy is a necessary thing, user experience is a necessary thing, security, in my view, is also a necessary thing for adoption. And only then people can feel comfortable using our beautiful technology and actually moving over from the old world to the new world.
Matej, you want to take us across the finish line? Blockchain adoption, privacy.
Yeah, I think we need to work on the compliance side, regulatory side, right? Because there's a lot of fears there with integrating privacy solutions into your product. What is the regulator going to say? Are they going to go after me? I think here we need to try to not fit crypto into the existing frameworks, but try to work with the regulators, with the policymakers, and try to find like a middle ground where we take back a little bit of that sovereignty, right, that was completely lost. And maybe, I don't know, the Western world, maybe it's not the best to start, you know, because here we have all the KYC, AML, maybe, you know, more like emerging markets like South America is more interesting, you know, where you can start building out certain frameworks that are missing and try to come up with the right solutions there, and then you know, bring that across the whole space. But yeah, I think we should try to push for the crypto ethos where it was born from, right? And not try to squeeze into all the checkboxes that people are trying to put us in. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you panelists. Wonderful panel. So I just want to give you a quick reminder that the bar is open for 15 more minutes. So if you want to get a drink, please do so. But come back. We have one more presentation from Hangin from Fala, and it'll be very interesting. I've seen this presentation before. Very